What a cabin in the Catskills taught me about low maintenance gardening. I mean, you want to hear this? Because I want to tell you. All right. So in 2018, I made a mood board for a life I didn't have yet. Right? It was a cabin, it was land, somewhere that felt nothing like the city, somewhere I could actually breathe. I had no business buying property. I had savings, I had a job, and a feeling that I couldn't shake after visiting Catskills for the very first time. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I watched 100 hours of DIY YouTube video, but I wasn't ready. But I am going to tell you what happened anyway, because what that cabin taught me changed how I think about gardening, about land, about time, and honestly, about what it means to build something that's actually yours, right? So here it goes. The realtor walked us through the property. And she was honest with us, straight up. From the start, she looked me and Luke in the eyes and she said, this is going to be a labor of love. And she was right. We had to get a new roof, new gutters, new windows, new septic, hardwood floors, a Generac generator because we're rural, and over 20 trees down from the property. And that's before I even touched the garden. I remember standing outside in those early weeks looking at that land and thinking, I have no idea where to start. Not with this house, not with the yard, not with any of it. And I think that's the feeling a lot of homeowners know. You've made the decision, you've signed the papers, and then the reality walks up and it introduces itself. For me, that was COVID back in 2020 when that happened. We were at the cabin full time, working remote, completely isolated, and something unexpected happened. I stopped trying to fix everything at once. I started watching, and I walked that property every morning, and I paid attention to where the light was hitting, where the water was pooling after the rain, and where the areas that the deers were munching the most, which corners of the yard went wild when I left them alone, and which ones were turning into something nice and beautiful. You know, I really do miss those days. That isolation, surrounded by nothing but trees and silence and slow time. You might even hear thumping here because I'm in Brooklyn. But being upstate in the Catskills, it changed me. The cabin wasn't a property anymore. It really became a teacher to me. And the first lesson it taught me was this: nature doesn't need your help. You know what I mean? It needs your attention. Here's what I could not have learned in Brooklyn or Delaware. In the city, you can manage things reactively, right? Something looks bad, you can fix it. The pace of the urban life lets you pretend that control is really possible, and the illusion disappears real fast. 20 trees don't come down because you ignore them for a weekend. The land operates on its own schedule. Seasons don't negotiate with you, and a garden that isn't designed to work with that reality, with the deer, the slope, the frost, the soil, will exhaust you every single year. You gotta trust me on this. I've been there, and I learned from patience up there. Real patience, to be honest with you, not the kind where you wait for something to happen, the kind where you stop trying to force things that aren't ready. And the more I think about it, I learned that the most beautiful parts of that property, they were the things that I stopped fighting, right? Think about that. Those are little blooms that sometimes pops up in your yard that you love so much. Stop fighting them. If you are new here, this is Root and Roam Life. I garden across 3 properties, this cabin in the Catskills, a townhouse in Delaware, and an apartment in Brooklyn. What I share isn't theory. It's what I've tested across real land that I own in real conditions that I'm a part of across multiple seasons. If you are a homeowner trying to figure out how to make your outdoor space work for your actual life, not someone else's, you should subscribe. I do new videos every Sunday. What the cabin taught me about low maintenance design, you may be thinking, right? What does any of this have to do with low maintenance gardening? And real talk, everything. It's the same mistake most new homeowners make. I was reacting to the garden instead of designing it. Every weekend was a new fire to put out. I had weeds, I had overgrowth, I had damage, I had decay. I was working hard and going nowhere. The shift happened when I stopped asking what really needs to be done around here. And I started asking, what kind of garden can this land actually sustain without constant intervention? So the question changed everything for me. It led me to use fewer plant varieties. I'm all about my conifers, my ornamental grasses, and my perennials. I repeat with intention. It led me to build structure, the evergreens. That started to define shapes in the garden. Edging became important for me. Simple shapes with my conifers. So the garden started to look intentional even in the months that I couldn't get up there, because it is a 2-hour commute from Brooklyn, right? So a low maintenance garden isn't a lazy garden. It's something that's designed once, and the Catskills taught me that difference, right? I'm gonna tell you what it means. If you're a new homeowner standing in your yard right now, with that feeling, the one where you don't know where to start and the list keeps growing and growing, you don't have to figure it out this weekend. The best move you can make right now isn't buying more plants because Lowe's and Home Depot and your local garden store is about to open with beautiful options. It's really going to be about you researching every possible solution. Slow down, man. Slow down enough to actually understand what you are working with. Walk your entire property, watch it for a few weeks, give yourself one season before you make permanent decisions, right? And I know that's going to be hard when everything feels urgent, trust me, but the gardeners who build something lasting, they all learn to let the land speak before they start answering. Ooh, yeah, shout out Garden Answer. She's amazing. Let me ask you a question, right? I want to ask you something real. What does your outdoor space mean to you? Not what, but what you want it to feel like. It took me a while to understand that. So drop it in the comments. I read every comment. And if your answer sounds like mine, and what I did in 2018, you're in the right place. Okay, so in 24 hours, we'll probably be back at work, back in the office, back with the kids, back doing something. 24 hours move so quick. So here's your one move for today, because you're busy and we lazy, but you're gonna go outside, not to fix anything, not to pull any weeds or make a list. Just walk your property or your yard or your balcony, whatever you got, your deck, just walk it slowly. Take your phone, photograph one thing that feels overwhelming and one thing that already feels right. That's it, 2 photos. You're not solving anything today. You're not starting and see it clearly, and seeing clearly is always the first step. You gotta trust me, there will be a payoff. In 2018, I made a mood board. I didn't know then that the hardest part wouldn't be buying the cabin. It would be learning to listen to it. The roof, the trees, the septic, the soil, all of it was just the land asking, are you serious about this, Stephon? Are you willing to slow down, pay attention, and build something that lasts? And I said yes. And this channel is a part of that answer. If you're a new homeowner trying to figure out what you've gotten yourself into, trust me, you are actually where I was, and it gets better. Sometimes it's gonna get harder, but it gets better. Not because it gets easier, because you get smarter about what actually matters. You know what I'm saying? So the next video gets more practical. I'm not gonna be up here preaching all the time, but the exact framework I use across all 3 properties to design for low maintenance from the ground up. If the cabin is where I learned the philosophy, that video is where I built the system. It's the right place to go next. So until then, I want to thank you for stopping through. This is Root and Roam Life. Root deep, roam free, and stay grounded. Peace.